Everybody, welcome back to the Rebel Jumps channel. Today I want to talk about a best guy into lightsaber. So if you're interested in buying a custom lightsaber and you're wondering what direction you should be going in and why, I'm gonna explain a little bit what would be a good option for you in a certain prerequisite. So it can have to do with budget, it can have to do with the delivery times, it can have to do with the quality, etc. So let's talk a little bit about it. And the foremost and easiest way to get your hands on a lightsaber with FX sound and whatnot is to buy a Hasbro Black Series or FX lightsaber from either Toys R Us or the Disney store. And in general, they're not bad. They're not really considered one-to-one replicas within the custom lightsaber community. Plus, they're not really highly cherished because they basically are more budget-friendly lightsabers. They have a small stringlet blade, often not removable, so you cannot take out the blade. They're not very bright. The soundboard is not very sensitive nor very loud. It's very budget. The lightsaber often is half parts are plastic, half of it's is some sort of metal or alloy, and they're not bad for the price. I mean, let's be honest, if you buy them most often on discount, 120 US dollar, that is not too bad for a little Yoda replica or Rey lightsaber or Kylo Ren lightsaber. A lot of people actually use it as a platform to take out the electronics and repurpose that with high-end soundboard and whatnot from the custom saber industry. And I think that's one way to go. Personally, I think it's a little bit of a waste of money because I always think the Black Series are more for the average Joe collector that's not really into custom lightsabers and not really want to spend that kind of money, but want to have some sort of a lightsaber on the display or whatnot. Then yeah, it's a nice little saber. I wouldn't recommend to go dueling with it or do anything crazy with it because they're quite fragile. But they're also, by that same community of casual lightsaber collectors, basically very sought after, and people spend a lot of money for it. Well, there's no really good reasoning for it. There's going a lot of money for some of those hilts, especially like the Ventress hilts or the Dooku hilt. People are willing to pay a lot of money for it, and I always find it very funny. But it's the same like the no disrespect, the Funko Pop collectors. They put down a lot of money for a Funko that did not cost more than $10 to make. Or even $10 in the store. So I'm always very surprised that people are so willing to spend so much money on those FX lightsabers from Hasbro and etc. Now, then we get into the realm of actual custom lightsabers. And we have a whole bunch of companies available. We have Alto Sabers, Saberforge, Vader's Vault, Sabertrio, Electrum Saberscraft, and there's a whole bunch more. Pach Store, Wonderforce. I can go on. The list is endless almost. The thing is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a lightsaber in a certain budget? Because that's important, right? How much are you having in your wallet? How much are you willing to spend? That's gonna basically, that's the first thing. That's gonna depict everything that you're gonna look at. So budget is number one because the custom lightsabers can be very expensive. Really expensive, but it also comes down about quality, what kind of quality you want. It all comes together. So price, quality, budget, not so much quality. And there's different companies that jump into different segments. Now in my personal opinion, and you guys know that, I would always consider Saberforge and Alto Sabers in that budget category. The quality is not per se super bad if you just look at the hilt, the hilt itself. Now with the hilt, I mean, this is a good example because this is a Saberforge. The hilt, this whole piece here, as a piece, as this hilt, in most cases they're not horrible. Some of them are not very good, especially with Saberforge. They really have some up and down hilts, so you need to be careful. There's some mine traps there, so you need to be careful. You don't want to hit yourself with a bad design hilt, because what I recommend is you either get an empty hilt and do the install the electronics yourself, either a stunt setup that means only light, or an actual full experience with a soundboard, let's say a Nano Biscotti version 4, where you have sound and light. It's not that hard to do it yourself. It's not really rocket science to solder, because if you just look at it from an eagle eye, it's just a soundboard slash sound chip and then some wires that you wire up to the light, which is an LED unit, and then you have a button, which is your switch, and a battery, which is gonna power and drive the soundboard and the light. So it's not that complicated, but it all comes down to experience. The more often you do it, the better and the cleaner the installs will get, and the more durable they will become. And for me personally, I found very early, I tried it, that installations of electronics myself is not something I'm really good at, and I'm never gonna be good at because I don't have enough hilts to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. Plus I don't have the right tools. I have some cheap soldering iron and I had some wires and it was not always correct, and I didn't have all the small parts required, so let's say shrinking tubes. I didn't have the right resistors, so it was a little bit of a missed opportunity, and it didn't really work out for me. I don't have the patience, bottom line. So for a lot of people like myself, I go to Saberforge, Ultra Sabers, Vader's Vault, and I buy a complete saber. Now, for Saberforge and Ultra Sabers, as an example, in Sabertrio, they are selling lightsabers in a stunt configuration, which basically means light, like this. And there's nothing to it. They're fairly cheap because it's just a minor upgrade from the empty hilt to a stunt setup. Now there's a whole merit of different stunt setups, different LEDs with different brightness output, different battery setups, different switch setups. But in general, I would say look for something that is very similar to the Saberforge stunt setup. So what I mean is, it has, for example, a tri-cree or quad-cree LED. Doesn't really matter. To me personally, it has a latching switch and it has a 18615 battery setup. Check my videos, you will see what it is. That is just the best setup in my personal opinion for a stunt setup, because you have a battery that lasts you long, you have a bright LED, and you have a simple but solid setup. So there's nothing much to it, but it will work as a stunt saber. It will work. So that is what I like. Both Ultra Sabers and Saberforge have these options. Sabertrio as well. And then there's companies that don't have that option because they have a different setup for their company. They're like, no, we don't sell glow sticks, we sell full experiences, as I like to call them. And a good example of a full experience is this Vader's Vault Mitsurugi 3K. It comes complete with electronics. You cannot buy any Vader's Vault sabers empty without electronics, and you cannot buy it in only a stunt configuration. Impossible. Vader's Vault is not having that. They're not selling it. So the benefits of this is you don't have to do the installations yourself, like the stunt setup. All electronics come with the hilt, but then again the price range we're gonna up, right? We're gonna more premium, because this has a premium soundboard, it has a tri-cree LED, it has flash on class, it has a very sensitive and very high-end mid-range soundboard. I would say this is on the top of the mid-range. And then you have cheaper alternatives as well. Let's say you don't really need a high-end soundboard in your saber, and you're looking for something in between. Well, then maybe Sabertrio is a good option for you, because they use Nano Biscotti version 2 soundboards, which is basically a very light basic soundboard, but that also presses down the pricing. This comes with a tri-cree RGB LED, so I can change into any colors I want. It has a very loud speaker as well. It has a recharge port, so I can easily recharge the battery without having to take the battery out. Or I can actually take out the battery and swap the battery, so I have a lot of options. Again, battery configurations are kind of important depending on what you want to do. If you want to go do a lot of heavy dueling, you want to take some spare batteries with you on the go. During your dueling session, just swap out the batteries. You don't want to put it into a wall charger and charge it up and being unable to play, unless you maybe take a second saber with you, which can be very well the case. But this is a really nice option. It's also quite affordable. Something like a stunt saber. So let's say the Saberforge Adept would cost me as a stunt setup with blade, charger in warrior tier, which is a stunt configuration, around let's see, $250. $250. So this is a stunt, just light. But it's a really cool saber, right? It's a specific design. It's canon. It's a canon Hilt design based on an existing character in the Star Wars lore. Now, then the Sabertrio is it's just a custom lightsaber. It's designed and made and developed by Sabertrio, so it doesn't have the backing of a canon character in the Star Wars lore, but it is very lightsabery. It looks like a lightsaber. It is a lightsaber, so it's just not from an existing character that you know. This hilt costs you $250 with sound, basic soundboard, and RGB. So you already have like an offset, like in the $250 budget range, either with sound and RGB and flash and class, or just one solid color and nothing else. Options. They're not equal. As you can see, very different hilt designs, canon, non-canon. Difference are also from a technical point of view. A stunt setup, just a light, the battery is gonna last you overall in general longer because there's no soundboard being driven, so it doesn't have to play off sounds when you swing it, etc. So it might be a good option for you if you do long dueling sessions or spinning sessions and you want to preserve the battery as long as possible, or you do trooping and it's so loud in whatever environment you're going to be. A soundboard doesn't really going to help you because nobody can really hear it because it's too loud. Then a stunt saber is good. Then you're at $250, you're in a stunt setup. Now of course Saberforge has cheaper options. I just use this as an example, but it's a good depiction of what kind of stuff you can get in a certain range. Now this saber of course have all of that, so I like this because I can take this to my friends, I can open carry it, show new people, introduce them to the hobby, and have an inexpensive lightsaber that have all these features such as RGB, changing color of the blade, it has a soundboard, it has flash and class, it has a loudspeaker, so I can impress people fairly easy for a small budget. And I consider $250 and a small budget in the custom lightsaber community because, as I said, lightsabers can be very, very expensive. Now, this saber, for example, is a tad expensive, but then again, it's a very unique design. It's all by Vader's Vault. It's not based on the canon hilt or anything. It's completely designed by Vader's Vault, and it has a lot of intriguing designs. You can see I have did a video about this, so you can check it out. So then you get also into the hilt itself, where you're gonna pay money for. So that's the first thing. Like, this is a more simplistic, straightforward hilt. Very good, very solid. It's a two-piece hilt, so there's nothing that rattles on it, nothing can break on it. And this hilt is also very solidly made, but it has a lot of different parts and different elements, powder coating elements, etc, etc, etc. So you can imagine that this, from a standpoint of engineering, a standpoint of development, and a standpoint of the actual components that go into it, it's going to be more expensive. Period. It's going to be more expensive, so that's why you're going to pay more for this hilt. Plus, this has a crystal shard version 4 soundboard in here, and that's exclusive to Vader's Vault, JQ Sabers, and I believe one other company. I think that is Genesis Custom Sabers, and that's it. Only those 3 companies can carry this particular soundboard, which is a upgrade from the Nanobiscotti version 4. It's equally to a Prism 5.1, but it's a lot smaller, and I would say it's a little bit better than the Prism. But it's really nice package. And then again, this is a lightsaber that costs you over $400. So yeah, it's gonna be more expensive. Now then again, you can make it as crazy as you want. Each of these companies, like even Saberforge and Vader's Vault, have Saberforge and Ultra Sabers have a whole bunch of saber options. So you can upgrade this saber to up to $600 and have a neck soundboard in there with that's called their hero tier with RGB, etc. And then you're gonna pay like $500-600 for this hilt. And then you have to think, 500, 600 US dollar. If this saber is worth to you that kind of money, because you just love this hilt because of the lore, the canon behind it, or whatever personal reason you have to make that purchase, then you can go to it. Because you also have to consider that there's different companies, even though the price range is the same, the quality is not the same. I always highly regard Saberforge as a high quality company. If this hilt was the same amount as that $600 Saberforge hero tier that I just explained, I would always go for Saberforge, because I personally would choose quality over quantity, because Saberforge is a lot bigger company and they make quantity hilts. They make it on the mass scale. They make thousands and thousands and thousands of those Saberforge adepts, for example, and the electronics are not really highly regarded in the custom labor saber community for both Ultra Sabers and Saberforge. They're just not as good. So then again, it also comes down on the quality. What is your view? What you looking for? Are you just looking for a pretty hilt, or a hilt from a certain character that you have a special band with and you're willing to spend that kind of money because of that aspect? Or you say, no, I want to have quality for this and this reason, that's why I go with another company. Or you say, well, it's all great, 400, 500 US dollar is completely out of my league, I'm not interested in spending that kind of money. The Hasbro Black Series, the Ultra Sabers or Saberforge Stunt Sabers, some mystery boxes, grab bags, those kind of options are inexpensive lightsabers, just a stunt setup, just a light, no soundboards. Those are interesting things to look at. For me personally, my 50 cents on custom lightsabers, and after being so long in the hobby, for me there's a few points I'm looking at. So I'm looking at quality, I look at reputation of the sabersmith and saber company within the custom lightsaber community, because I feel like I'm listening very carefully to critics and feedback, and I developed opinion on based on having done a lot of custom lightsaber reviews. I know now I have a good feel of what I like, what I don't like. So there's a few things I really look for myself. This is a good example. So I look at the hilt, how well it's constructed. Like I look from an engineering point, how is it constructed, what kind of elements in there, and I look at it, wow, how much labor it's gonna cost to make this hilt compared to the price they are asking for on the website. And then I look at the electronics inside, and then I realize, wow, this company is actually not making a lot of margin on this lightsaber. This is like very minor margin. So I feel already more comfortable as a customer to pay that kind of money versus this kind of hilt, which is the margin is a lot smaller for Saberforge because they make it mass scale in China. So it's a lot cheaper for them to make, even though with the hero tier electronics, which is an older NAC soundboard, Spark 2 I believe, even then, and I think, wow, I'm gonna pay $600, but Saberforge is gonna get at least $200 profit out of that. So I'm already less inclined to go in that route. Plus the electronics are not really regarded in very well in the custom saber industry. So then I have that. Then I look at that, and I also look at the features. What kind of soundboard is in there? As I said, I'm not a do-yourself installation guy, so I prefer to buy a complete experience, either a stunt saber or something with a soundboard, etc. Like this, and nowadays I'm also looking at the more premium stuff. Like, I'm a guy, I'm not in the need of having to collect hundreds of lightsabers. I don't need 100 lightsabers on my shelves. What I want is a select few lightsabers that I play with a lot. I don't mind scratching them up, but I want them to have the full experience. I want to have them a soundboard, a premium soundboard, RGB, recharge ports, removable battery if can, a crystal review. So future lightsabers, for example, my solos hold, Blind Knight, which is Kanan Jarrus lightsaber, will have a crystal review. It will have a very beautiful, intriguing 3D printed chassis, etc. I want to have the complete package, complete experience, and that's also tying into the other step that you can go into with custom lightsabers, is getting a custom commission. For example, a saber that has been commissioned by Dart Ellis or Starfall or one of the other companies, Schmitz, I think, what is his name, Morris, sorry I forgot his first name, something Morris. He makes beautiful stuff, and there's a bunch of other ones, and those are one-off custom lightsabers, really high end, but you have to pay up like 1,500, 2,000 euro, 2,000 US dollar. You can expect those kind of ranges up to 8 to 10,000 US dollar. Those are the high end custom one-off lightsabers. I highly recommend that if you're into collecting lightsabers. In I would say, instead of collecting quantity of lightsabers, collecting like 20, 30, 50 lightsabers, I would say get a few quality pieces. Those gonna last you, those gonna stay high in value, and those gonna give you the most pleasure, because you can collect a lot of quantity but you're never fully satisfied. So what I have is a Darth Alice Slim Coda made by Todd Johnson. In conjunction with me, we had these conversations and we came up with this beautiful lightsaber, and I love it dearly. Same for my Vader's Vault Hero. It's a high-end lightsaber, but it's an almost one-to-one replica of the Luke Skywalker Hero lightsaber that he used in The Last Jedi, and that is again very special to me. Same for the Solo's Hold, Blind Knight, and Orphan lightsaber. It will be very special to me because I'm very close to Kanan Jarrus. So for me, it's a combination. I think I'm mostly leaning towards canon hilts because I have developed a personal band or relationship with those characters over the time. So those are lightsabers that I'm seeking for. Anyway, I hope this best buy guide helped you a little bit. If you want, I can go more in depth in the next videos and show the individual companies, and from those point of views, what the best stuff is that you can look for at those companies. So we can dig down step by step. Hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully it was useful. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye bye, swai swai, and takes coming.